Cheers, everybody. It is review time. We are back, Bourbon on a Budget, and we are excited to be with you guys tonight. Tonight, we are reviewing High West Double Rye. High West Double Rye, and we're excited to drink it with you guys. Ben, Brendan, how are you tonight?
Doing good.
Doing dandy. I know you've been excited to get into the rye game, TJ, and here you are. Here we are. You've convinced me to try out this double rye.
You got us onto the Irish whiskey, and so I'm going to get you into some rye. Super excited about it. I'm not only excited to review this because it's a rye, I'm super excited, like you just heard in our first episode that dropped on Tuesday. I love High West. Big High West fan. I like a lot of the different things they do, and so I'm excited to jump into this review. So let's hit it. High West Double Rye. It is a blend of straight rye whiskeys, ranging in ages between 2 and 7 years. So it's got a 2-year age statement on it. It's an undisclosed ratio of, get this, 2 different ryes, double rye. There's the name.
I get it.
One of them is 95% rye and 5% malted barley, and the other is 80% rye and 20% malted barley. The first one, the 95.5, is from MGP. It's sourced. And then the second one, the 80/20, is from High West Distillery. So they blend both of them together. They don't tell you how much of each, but an undisclosed amount, and it comes out with this double rye. 92% proof, so 92 proof, 46% alcohol by volume. And this is going to range between $35 and $40. You can find it on sale some places a lot cheaper. I think Ben got this for $28.99, $27.99. Somewhere in there. I've seen it for $32. So if you can get it for that lower price of anywhere from $30 to $32, $35, $40 is about the most you'll see it for. But if you just search out a little bit, you should be able to find it for under $40. Guys, you've been nosing it while I've been yakking here. I've got my Norland glass back that I know you guys are super jealous of. But tell us about this nose. Let's get into tasting this thing or smelling this thing.
I guess I'll start, and I kind of feel like I'm on even footing with you guys because, as documented in the previous episode, I'm not a rye guy. You two are. You're the double ryes of this group as we sample this double rye. So I'm getting a lot of really unfamiliar notes. Like I am getting this like burnt sugar kind of note. So sweet, but like briny too. To me, it reminds me of like being it reminds me of being a childhood memory of being at my grandparents' house in Sarasota, Florida. Not that they were throwing down bourbon or rye or anything like that, but that salt water kind of omnipresent in the air. It almost smells like how pickles taste to me, and it's actually oddly pleasant. I don't know.
Wow, that's pretty briny. I get a little more sweetness. I definitely get a lot of earthiness on the nose, maybe a little bit of mint, but it's a definite departure from your typical bourbon nose, which is something it's nice. If you want to go and kind of nose a bourbon and then nose your rye back and forth, this is very distinct rye. And I think that comes from a big portion of the mash bill being at 95% rye. So that's nice.
Yeah, double rye, no corn, because there is no corn in this. Little play on words for some of you that may know me from other places.
I get that one too,
I just needed Brendan to acknowledge.
I don't get it.
That was good.
Very good, Ben. Yeah, but there's still a ton of sweetness, even without the corn. And I'm, coming from the barley, I would assume I get some of that burnt sugar that Brendan's talking about. I hadn't got, I do kind of get the salt, so I like that as well. So a pleasant nose. Do you like Brendan, you said pickles, but you like it. So, I mean,
it's weird. I don't like pickles, but it's a good nose. I think when we score it, I'm going to give it a fairly high mark because it is super unique and interesting. I don't know if that's just me not being accustomed to ryes and it being different than what I'm used to, but it's a really nice blend of sweet and briny and smoky. It's nice. It's a nice nose. I'm really interested to taste it here.
All right, well, let's take a sip. Ben, you have been sipping on this. I just watched you. Tell us a little bit about the taste.
Yeah, I really enjoy the taste here. One thing that I really like about ryes in general is the nose is usually spicy, earthy, and then there's a lot of kind of neutral, sweet flavors on the taste. So when I'm getting ready for a rye, it's like, okay, let's dive in nose first into a lot of the spices, a lot of like the earthiness, and then it kind of melts itself out. And that's the same thing with this double rye. It's very pleasant. I would say if you are first entering into ryes or considering, hey, let me kind of approach what rye should be like. You've heard a lot of like, hey, there's a ton of burn, a lot of pepper on the palate. This is a great opportunity for you to get in something that has very little burn. I don't like using the word smooth, but this is definitely an easy drinker rye for me. So if you want to get into rye, this is a good opportunity.
Brendan, you've been tasting a little bit. What do you think now that you're chewing on this? Where are you at with how this tastes?
I am legitimately chewing on it because I'm working like overtime to try to identify some of these flavors that I'm not used to. That sugariness from the nose does show up on the taste. I think Ben's observation of how it's really dramatic on the nose and it kind of evens out a little bit on the palate. I think that's astute, Ben Benethy Cock the third. It is.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you. It's good. It's good. I'm sorry. I know I'm moving slower than usual as I review it. My brain's just having a hard time processing some of this. The mintiness that Ben mentioned on the nose, I get that for sure. Like almost like a spearmint, very vibrant, like in my wife's garden.
Yeah.
So I get that. The rye spice, like a rye bread. So that spiciness, maybe like kind of a clovey kind of note too. And one more weird one that I keep coming back to, and I'm trying to see if my brain's playing tricks on me, like a cotton candy bubblegum kind of weirdness there. I don't know if that's the sweet. I don't know, guys. It's interesting. It's different for sure.
So you're saying it's complex?
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly where I was going. Is that it's definitely complex. I get
0.5 soon come for sure.
I get a whole bunch of complexity on the taste. There is a bunch of that spice, obviously being a couple of straight rye or a couple of very heavy ryes blended together. Some sweet. I think the finish comes in kind of sweet, which we'll transition into the finish here in a moment. But that's kind of where I think Brendan's going with some of that bubblegum, cotton candy sweetness that comes in. Definitely the spearmint. It's we've talked about some bourbon pairings or some whiskey pairings. It's a little refreshing. That mint is really good at it.
That's a good call, man. Yeah.
We talked about, somebody else asked us, we don't mention this as much, but what do you guys think about the mouthfeel on this? That's a fun thing to say, to talk about.
Mouthfeel. Do you ever see Bob's Burgers?
No.
There's an old guy doing a burger tasting contest, and he just, every bite he takes, he goes, exquisite mouthfeel. So it's a reference for you guys at home.
Thank you for taking it there. Ben, mouthfeel, how easy is it? It's pretty easy to drink, right? Like
mouthfeel, it's pretty delicate. If you want to get into something that's like really oily or heavy mouthfeel, you have to probably step into 100, 105 proof to kind of start approaching those like really oily, pretty much non-chill filtered bourbons or ryes would probably approach you into something like those oily mouthfeels. But for this, I would say it's definitely delicate. It's not as delicate as an 80 proof product, but it's nice.
How's it finish, Brendan?
Pleasantly. I will say the finish is probably the least enjoyable aspect so far, and it's not that I'm not enjoying it. It just, I get all the rye spice at the end of it, and it's not super intense, but it's the most present part of the finish to me. Again, maybe me having a hard time kind of processing some of this. The mid palate is great, but then it just kind of drops off a little bit for me. I'm not sure if that's just me processing it. Ben, what do you think of the finish?
Finishes, I would say typical of rye. It's not as aggressive on the spice, but as it kind of mellows out, it finishes a little bit sweet to me. But also there's some complexity to it. I would say this is a very complex product for the price point here. And that's why I think it's probably coming from the use of two different rye mash bills. So I'm liking the finish a lot.
Yeah, no, I think the finish does have a ton of spice to it, and maybe that's not Brendan's thing 100% because he's getting more into the ryes, but I think it's pretty typical of a standard rye. And then just before the finish and right with the finish, I get some of the sweetness, some of the burnt sugar that Brendan talked about on the nose and that we've talked about with the flavor and the taste I get some of that with the finish too. So you guys ready to rate this thing? See what we come up with on a scale. We've got a new number 1 back there. Last week's Old Forester 100. I know that Ben and I
I'm
are
making
gonna...
noise so you can see it, and also clapping because Old Forester 100, 7.4 on our composite score. Pretty decisive win over Russell's Reserve. So that's the best value we've got out of 6 or 7 reviews so far.
Yeah, and it's a consistent $8 to $10 cheaper a bottle as well, which obviously factors into the value. I know that, but a higher overall for sure. Let's rate this thing. Ben, start us off with our nose.
Nose out of 2. Right. Then I would say 1.5, like 1.5. I'm going to be pretty favorable on this review. I like this product a lot. So I'm going 1.5 on nose.
1.5 is exactly what I had as well. It is very interesting. It's pleasant, complex, almost kind of feels like a Scotch in some ways, in that there's a lot going on with it, like a Highland Scotch. It's by the sea. So 1.5. It's nice.
I'll make it an even 3, 1.5.
All right.
Taste. Brendan, you start us off on this one. You're the newbie here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with use a little bit of our decimal cheating a little bit here. I'm gonna go 2.25, slightly above average to me. It's good. It's not, again, my preference, but I can tell there's quality there. It's blended very well. There's good flavors going on. There's certainly a lot of rye-ness in there, double rye-ness in there. 2.25 for me, above average.
I don't know, Brendan. I think you are way low on this one.
What? I don't like
2.25
out of 4. It's above
barely above average. Woo!
I don't like rye. the fact that I'm not spitting it out right now.
We will convert you.
Yeah, one of us. I'm going a full point higher. I'm going 3.25 on this one.
Yes, that is the right answer.
So I can't go all the way up to 3.5, but I do. Yeah, 3.25 for me. Ben, sounds like you're about to agree.
3.25, 100%. You are right there on it, man.
We didn't compare notes beforehand. Ben, keep us going with the finish.
Finish strong. Let me taper that back. I think this is probably where it steps back a little bit from being above average. So in my head, in my palate, I'm probably going half point.
Yep. I'm on board. I'm with half a point as well. It's exactly average. I wish it was a little bit. I bet you like 5% more proof to this would be pretty clutch.
Do you want a 0.625 or a 0.625?
We're going eights, huh?
No. I will keep it consistent there and go with a half a point as well. All right, we talked about how complex it was. I'll start with Ben on this one again. Cohesiveness and complexity. What are you thinking on this, Ben?
Yeah, this is an outperformer on complexity. So I'm going 0.75.
Brendan.
It's cohesive because that briny and sweet combination goes all the way throughout, but because that's such a rare and even that smoky kind of char note too, it's complex. It hits both. It checks both of those boxes to me. So I'm going to full 1 point on cohesiveness and complexity. 1.0 out of 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think that it's complex, it's cohesive. It's a really Brendan took it all. I don't need to try and say more than he did. So Brendan got it right. 1 point here. Bringing our scores before value to Ben with a 6 out of 8, Brendan with a 5.25 out of 8, and myself leading the way with a 6.25 out of 8. Let's get into the value, guys. We talked about this bottle goes anywhere from $27.99, $28, all the way up to $40. I think that you're usually going to find it between $32 and $35 at most places you go to. So it's on every shelf. It's not hard to find. It's not limited. So nothing counting against it there. The proof again at 92. So there's availability, there's price, and there's proof. Ben, take us home with a value.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's available everywhere. If you can get this for under $35, you're easily at 1.5. So I think most people should be able to find it at that price point. So I'm going 1.5 points.
I'm going to go 1.75. I would give this a full 2 if it just had a little bit more proof to it. Kind of gets a little bit of a dock there. It's good, but I'm even going a little bit higher than Bid did. I'll go 1.75. Brendan, you're the one to take us home there.
Wow. All right. I feel like I'm going to disappoint you guys. I'm not going to let peer pressure push me to it though. Last week with the Old Forester 100, I think I was at a 5.75 going into this place, and I gave it a 2. So that was about $5 to $10 cheaper and slightly better for me. This is certainly an above average whiskey at about an average price. So I'm going to stick to, I'll give it a slight bump because I feel like I was low earlier. I'll give it 1.25. I was going to go with a 1. I'll go 1.25.
So I don't think that's bad. Bringing our total scores to Brendan at the lowest, 6.5 out of 10.
Boo.
Ben at a 7.5 out of 10, and myself at an 8 out of 10.
Whoa!
Wow, is that
this
the first?
Deserves to be number 1. Let's go.
That's
is
20.
That the first 8 we've ever had?
Let's go.
22 divided by 3. 22 divided by 3. If I could hit the right buttons on my calculator, it says 7.333. So it does not beat out Old Forester, but it does come in second. It is second place in front of the Russell's 10-year. Thanks to Brendan being a stick in the mud.
So happy I get to erase and rewrite 4 out of 5 of these again this week. That's
your
great,
wife.
guys.
Your wife gets to erase and rewrite 4 out of 5 of those.
No, I did it. I did it this week. I felt bad because I had to do all 5 of them because we had a new champion up top.
So Brendan gave this a 6.5, which is ironically the same thing he gave Redbreast 12. The cask strength we did for.
Did I really only give it that? Wow,
Yeah.
this is good. I have
which
to be
is what
honest,
he
guys.
gave.
This is good. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm very excited about this because it's good. I would actually be a fan of having this in my collection. And mission accomplished. For you two this week. I am intrigued by rye. I will give other ryes tries. It rhymes. I'm rhyming now, TJ.
It's also what he gave Buffalo Trace. So we're getting really wild with that one. So buy or don't buy. Brendan said he's going to add it to his collection. Ben and I have this in our collections at all times. In fact, I need to re-up. So we're about to go get us some points from a liquor store that we've plugged enough that I don't need to say their name. Ben, Brendan, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Definitely worth having like you said, have this in your collection. If you're interested in getting into the rye game, this would be a great starter option for you. So for the buyer that's looking to develop into the rye, great bottle.
Couldn't agree more. It's cheap. It's got a great value, a lot of good flavor, good nose, and we liked it. So go pick this up if you haven't yet. Follow us on all our social medias, Bourbon on a Budget. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, iTunes, wherever you're watching or listening to this. And we will see you guys next week. Cheers.